Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Today we're gonna talk about words that K-pop stans don't know the real meaning of. There are so many words that K-pop stans constantly throw around, but some of these words are definitely being misused and people just don't know what they really mean. It can get pretty frustrating in the long run because if you constantly use a word even when you shouldn't use it, that word just ends up losing its meaning, and this is exactly what's happening in K-pop. Anyway, let's see what some of these misused words are. Pick me. A pick me is a girl that acts as if she wasn't like other girls while also putting other women down in order to get the attention of guys and be liked by them. This is what it actually means. A pick me is not just any girl that you don't like. A pick me is not just a girl that acts cute. A pick me is not just a girl that you find cringy. People that call female idols pick me's are the real pick me's, because you're bringing down other women in order to make yourself look better and get other people to like you. This makes you a pick me. So next time you're about to call an innocent female idol pick me, just stop and think about the real meaning of this word, and you just might find out who the actual pick me is. Favoritism. Favoritism is the practice of giving unfair preferential treatment to one person or group at the expense of another. It's surely a very serious thing. It basically implies that someone is actively sabotaging and holding certain people back while simultaneously pushing another person forward. So if you want to say a member is favored, you could say that if that member always gets the most lines and the other members got little to nothing. You could say that if that member was the only one who got opportunities outside of the group while the other members were jobless. You could say that if that member got 90% of the screen time in music videos and if the other members had no chance to shine whatsoever. But no, you can't just throw around the word favoritism just because a member is more popular than the others and you think they overshadow the other members. Before speaking about favoritism, ask yourself this. Is the company only giving opportunities to that member and actively holding the others back? Is the company purposefully trying to create some sort of disadvantage for the other members so that that one member can shine more? If the answer is yes, then you can talk about favoritism, but I just can't think of any group where this is currently happening. All I see is that there are some groups where one or more members are more popular than the others, and the company is trying to capitalize on their popularity. But they're also simultaneously doing what they can to push the other members and give them opportunities. So in this case, I don't think we can talk about favoritism. This is a word with such serious meaning and implications behind it that it always annoys me seeing how much it's misused by K-pop stans. If a member gets less lines, it's not mistreatment. I'm sorry, but sometimes certain members get the least lines because they're the weakest singers, not because the company is trying to sabotage them. If a member doesn't get a solo debut, it's not mistreatment. Not everyone is solo material, or maybe they themselves don't feel ready to stand on stage alone, and it's most likely not mistreatment. Real cases of mistreatment could be what happened to groups like Luna and Omega X. Omega X have been emotionally abused by their manager and the members' well-being has been highly overlooked, while Luna have been neglected for years, without even getting paid. Not to mention how the company tried to taint Chua's reputation, trying to make her look like a villain. These are cases of mistreatment, not your fave singing for 5 seconds less than another member and things like that. Please be serious and try to put it into perspective. You'll see that using the word mistreatment is really not making sense. It boy and it girl. I know K-pop stans' obsession with the it girl and it boy title is kinda stupid and it's not that serious, but I just find it funny how these terms have been completely misused lately. K-pop stans just see an idol who is popular and they call them it boy and it girl. And I'm just confused because that's not what it is. Being an it boy and it girl is not just about being popular. It boys and it girls are usually idols whose names are really relevant even outside of the idol industry itself, because they have branched out into acting, or the advertisement field. An it boy and it girl is someone that's highly demanded by fashion brands and that has some kind of influence and becomes a sort of inspiration. Some people that instantly come to mind would be Astro's Yoonwoo, IVE's Wonyoung, and Blackpink's Jennie and Lisa. Of course there are more idols that could be considered it boys and it girls, but just because someone is a popular idol it doesn't mean they're an it boy and an it girl. Nepotism. Nepotism is a privilege or a position that is granted to relatives and friends in an occupation or field such as business, politics, entertainment and so on. So basically it's when someone who has an influential position gives an advantage to their friends and family members. This word is surely used in the wrong way in K-pop. We've especially seen it being used when it comes to Bahi. People were screaming about nepotism and saying how she got where she is thanks to her brother. And I mean, surely her brother's fame played a huge role in her becoming famous. Betty probably wouldn't be where she is if her brother wasn't a member of one of the biggest fourth-gen groups. But it's ridiculous how some people genuinely call this nepotism. By calling it nepotism, it's basically as if you were implying that Huening Kai, who had a famous career, gave his sister some kind of special treatment in order to make her win on Girls Planet and make her debut. That would be nepotism. But Bahi simply receiving attention because of her famous brother is not nepotism, and you people should stop throwing around big words if you don't even know what they really mean. Misogyny and misandry. Misogyny refers to a dislike and a prejudice against women, while misandry means the exact same thing but against men. I'm tired of hearing people saying you're misogynistic if you only like boy groups or you're misandrist if you only like girl groups. Also, just because someone might dislike a male or female idol, it doesn't mean they're doing it out of misogyny or misandry. I'm genuinely so tired of K-pop stans throwing around these terms without realizing how serious these words are. If someone says they dislike boy groups because they are men, and someone says they dislike girl groups just cause they are women, then I do believe there could be some internalized misogyny or misandry. Because why would you automatically dislike someone just cause of their gender? But most of the times it's not that serious, and people just don't vibe with something simply because it's not their cup of tea, not because they're misogynistic and misandrist. Plagiarize. It's basically stealing someone else's idea and passing it off as your own. This can happen both when it comes to songs and when it comes to concepts and music videos. I have to admit that sometimes there have been real instances of plagiarism in K-pop, so I'm not saying it doesn't happen because it does. However, jumping on a trend doesn't mean plagiarizing. An example I've already made is with NewJeans and their Y2K concept. Everybody was coming for Triple S when they dropped their song Generation, saying they plagiarized NewJeans' attention. As someone that stands both NewJeans and Triple S, this was very sad to see. I just struggle to see the similarities in the MVs because there isn't any. The only thing in common is the Y2K style, but that's it. Y2K has existed long before the NewJeans members were even born, so I really have to laugh when people try to act as if they invented that style. They don't own the Y2K style. Every other group is free to jump on the trend, obviously as long as they don't blatantly copy NewJeans, but that wasn't the case with Triple S. I'm just saying, you have to learn the difference between plagiarizing and simply following a trend. Anti. An anti is pretty much someone that actively hates on an artist, someone that deeply dislikes them and will try to go against them in many different ways. An anti is not someone that simply states their opinion and has some constructive criticism. Of course, sometimes people will say mean things and disguise them as constructive criticism, and that's not right. But simply saying you dislike a song is not being an anti. I've also seen many K-pop stans calling you an anti if you criticize a group's company, saying how in reality you're just an anti. One example could be with NewJeans. People were rightfully calling out Min Heejin for giving the group questionable lyrics with Cookie, and many NewJeans stans were throwing the word anti around, saying how people were just trying to bring the group down, when in reality most people were just worried for the girls. Another example is speaking up about a fandom being toxic. Just because I think some fandoms are pretty toxic and I say it out loud, it doesn't mean I hate the group. I just really dislike the fandom, but this has nothing to do with the group per se, and it most definitely doesn't make me an anti. Flop. A K-pop song doesn't reach #1 on every chart and K-pop stans call it flop. A group loses a bit of popularity for whatever reason and K-pop stans call them flops. Like, please be serious. There are some groups that used to be more popular and have lost a bit of hype, but it doesn't mean they're flops. For example, aespa and ITZY used to be much more popular at the time of their debut and their first comebacks compared to now, but they're still crazy popular and they're still doing well. Some groups that flopped could be Momoland or Weekly, for example, and that's because they were so huge when they dropped their hit songs Boom Boom and After School, but now people forgot about them. However, this doesn't happen with every single group that you call flops. Twice are not flops just because they're not charting as well as they used to. I don't even stand them, but it's ridiculous calling them flops when they're literally one of the biggest groups in K-pop history. K-pop stans are so overdramatic, it's crazy. Queerbaiting. We all know what queerbaiting is, and yes, I totally get why it's annoying. We just want to see some good LGBT representation in K-pop. But most of the times companies just blatantly queerbait by throwing in the music video a bunch of ambiguous scenes that are gonna pique people's interest. But in the end the MV doesn't portray a realistic or accurate representation of same-sex couples. This happens often, unfortunately, but it's not like every single time there's a gay element in a music video or a song it's queerbaiting. Some idols genuinely write songs using same-sex pronouns because they want to tell a story. Some groups do portray LGBT themes in their music videos because they want to spread a message. And we have to stop calling everything queerbaiting. By labeling every sort of LGBT representation as queerbaiting, you're substantially diminishing its meaning, which is just as negative as queerbaiting itself. Underrated. I think what many K-pop stans really mean to say is that they think someone is underappreciated, not underrated, because please explain to me how is it possible that groups like Mamamoo, 17, Dreamcatcher, Luna, Monster X and WJSN are underrated? Like, are you serious? I get it that you might think they're underappreciated compared to bigger groups, but excuse me, then everybody would be underrated since they're not as famous as BTS and Blackpink. It really bugs me seeing the word underrated being thrown around, because trust me, really underrated groups struggle to reach 1 million views sometimes. That's what being underrated means, and as someone that follows a few underrated groups, it just annoys me seeing groups being called underrated when they're clearly not. Okay, this was it. These were some words that I think K-pop stans don't know the real meaning of since they keep on throwing them around all the time. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if there are other words that you think K-pop stans often misuse. Thanks for watching. Bye guys.